that it tells. And today, we are honored to have a couple of the Cowboys, Four Eyes, Nick, and Fats Al, to visit with us.
You all right, boy?
Yes, sir. My name's Clyde Potter. They call me Fats.
You're not gonna say that, because I'm gonna come to you some night when it's real dark.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here in Tucson, Arizona for the 7th annual Wild Bunch Film Festival, which is all about the Western genre. So to honor John Wayne and the Cowboys for the 50th anniversary. We also have a stuntman here that was Nick's stuntman. If you want to come up and sit with us as well.
Come on.
And I know that we have some great questions. Gentlemen, first off, I want to ask each one of you, what was the most powerful moment while being on set of the Cowboys?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure I've answered that exact question before, but probably the most powerful moment is meeting John Wayne for the first time.
Miserable.
And what went through your mind? I mean, how old were you?
I was 14 and came from the cowboy life, and it was amazing just to get cast in this picture. And then when you get on set, I mean, I had taken my first airplane ride to Albuquerque, drove into Santa Fe, and whatever day it was, we headed out to the set and we were introduced to John Wayne. It's like, I knew John Wayne movies from being a kid. My dad and everybody loved John Wayne movies. But man, I was just there in his presence, in his greatness, meeting John Wayne.
It was a dream.
It was. So if you ask the most powerful moment, I mean, there was a lot of great moments we talked about, but to meet John Wayne, that was just unbelievable.
Nick, go ahead.
And I think I'll second exactly what he said, but as far as powerful, as far as making the movie, it was definitely the scene where John Wayne dies.
Go to hell.
Turn around, I want you to see this coming! I said stop!
Okay, I remember I told you guys.
And I still get goosebumps from it because, and Al will agree with this, we didn't have to fake tears. This movie was shot in sequence. So by the time we filmed that scene, we had been with the crew and everybody for 4 months. So to see John Wayne die was very, very sad. And that was very powerful for all the kids because he was a father figure to us.
Now, on set, did he actually treat you guys like you were his children?
Well, I mean, it's not like we were his children, but because he was John Wayne, because he was this icon, and because he was so kind to all of us, he never acted like he was unapproachable. He was always there for us, always helped us with scenes. He was just a father figure to us. And most of us were on set because we were minors, so we had to have our parents. I think most of us had our mothers there.
I had a stepmom.
You had a stepmom, I had my mom, but
Sean
most
had
of the
his
kids,
mom.
most of the kids had their mothers, so we missed our fathers. And he really filled that void for us.
Now, this was challenging scenes for you guys because of your age, but there was a lot of writing, and I know for you, Alfred Barker Jr. was
Just call him Fats.
I was gonna say, you look pretty darn good there, Fats.
Thank you.
Now, from the most amazing experience to the most difficult experience for you. I'm challenging them.
Yeah, you are. I'll answer. I honestly have to say it was the last day when it was over. That was the most difficult day.
Yeah, it was.
Because we had to say goodbye to everybody, and when you do a movie, you get so close with everybody. We were kids, and we were just having the time of our life doing this movie. I mean, can you imagine for 4 months, we're riding horses, roping. I'm learning how to be a cowboy. The cowboys learning how to be actors, and it was just a dream for months. So difficult, yeah, I know what you're saying is that when you make movies, it's difficult.
There's
You know?
always that day where you felt
Yeah.
like you failed.
Yeah, but this one I gotta say was magical. I didn't have a difficult time on the set. It was just saying goodbye to everybody that last day.
Yeah.
And I don't want to seem arrogant about it, but there wasn't a difficult day for me to be an actor. I came from being a cowboy, and to be an actor, I mean, I'm one of those people that's kind of meticulous. So even as a kid, I read the whole script, and at one point I had the whole script memorized. So when it came time to do the lines, I knew my lines, and we had a script supervisor there. So if you kind of bumbled something, you had somebody to help you through it, and they oversaw it and helped us with it. But so I didn't find any of that to be difficult. The thing, probably the greatest moment, rather than to talk about difficult, was probably the greatest thing is we all roomed together. Okay, so we were doubled up as us young men. I don't know how they decided who stayed with who. I stayed with a couple different guys during the movie, and so the story I always try to tell, we owned the Santa Fe Holiday Inn. Okay, we owned it. You didn't. You had 11 kids from the movie, and then you had all of our stunt doubles.
Okay,
That
now
were there.
that was a question I had. Did each one of the actors have a stunt double?
We did.
I know that you was Nick or Dan's.
I think
stunt
I
double.
was roommates with him for a while. I was
And Al and I
roommates with
were
Charlie.
roommates, yeah,
for a
at
while.
the end.
Yeah, and so we all had stunt doubles. They pretty much got bored a lot of the time because they didn't get to be utilized as much as you might expect. But
That's just because you actors learn so much about horses. Well, you already knew it.
You actors. Hey, wait a
Several of
minute.
the actors got out there, and these guys really did this. I mean, Nick, Sean, Steven, guys that had no previous experience in the past, they took it to heart, and they learned how to ride, and they learned a lot about roping. And these guys, and I gotta admit, there were some times that went like, we just stopped because I want to be a stunt man, and I wanted to go out there and ride and do my thing. But these guys got out there and really toughed it out. Most of the scenes that where Nick was in a spot, there were a few where I doubled for him. Wouldn't really call it stunt work, but these guys got out there and toughed it out and rode. They really did their thing.
So tell everybody your name, and this is kind of a fun story because you said that was your very first job on a movie.
Oh yeah, it was my first and only job. I never did any other movies after that. All I wanted to do was go out and rodeo, and probably one of the worst mistakes I made in my life because a lot of the guys I knew, they went on and performed. Nick did, he did quite a few movies, and Norm Howell, he became a stunt team director. The guys that were in the movie went on and did it as careers. All I wanted to do is rodeo, so I took off traveling and trying to be a professional cowboy. Unlike Clay, I didn't make it to the top, but if you all know Clay O'Brien, he's a world champion team roper and just...
Numerous world championships.
Oh yeah, numerous
7
championships,
world
yeah.
championships.
Yeah, and I wanted to elaborate on what Nick and Al said about favorite part of the movie, and you asked, what was John Wayne like? That guy was so personal. You guys have no idea. When I went on that movie, I'd never experienced anything like this. And John Wayne, I walked up to him one day. I had to get his signature on one of our scripts. So I'm, shaking. I'm Mr. Wayne. Dude, could you sign this script for me? He invited me up to his motorhome, just me and him, one-on-one, and sat there. And he talked to me like I was his best friend. He treated me like somebody that he'd known for years, and he was a gentleman. He was the true gentleman that he played in the movies. He really was. He was a big man too, I'll tell you.
That is something. We live on a very small portion of the John Wayne Red River Ranch in Stanfield, Arizona. And Jim actually had a chance to meet him when he was like 5 years old, and of course he didn't really realize who he was meeting at the time. But to hear the farm workers talk about John Wayne and how real and genuine of a man he was is so heartwarming, because he would get on the tractor with the farm workers, just like what you guys are saying on set.
Well, I've said this every time we've been together and every time this year, and we've been with Patrick Wayne, we've been with Ethan Wayne, his sons. First thing I said was, if I hadn't had the incredible dad that I had, John Wayne would have been my pick for a father, that Patrick and Ethan were totally lucky to have John Wayne as a dad, which they'll agree with you as well. But I challenge everybody in this room to tell me today, who is an icon such as John Wayne to be exemplary, to be a figure for people to look up to, for young people to look up to, young people like we were when we did this movie. Who's in the world for anybody to look up to? I can't think of anybody. The world is crazy, but when John Wayne was around,
I love Brad Pitt.
I do too.
I'm joking.
He's a good actor, but when I'm talking about looking up to a moral, solid human being, somebody that loved America, he loved his family, he loved being in the movies, and he treated us like gold. I can't think of another person.
Now, you guys filmed in 3 different states. New Mexico, Colorado, and then there at the studio in California. Which was your favorite filming location?
Oh, Jesus. Go ahead.
Mine was Colorado.
And why is that?
It's just the scenery was so beautiful. I don't know, just Colorado was really, really pretty. But I mean, Santa Fe, New Mexico was fantastic too.
Yay!
Yeah, Santa Fe's great. Being in the studios at Warner Brothers back in Los Angeles was great. But yeah, Colorado to me was fantastic. We were in a little town called Pagosa Springs near Durango, and it was just great there. We owned Pagosa Springs. What was the name of the hotel in Pagosa Springs?
I don't remember what it was called, but the places we stayed were owned by the mayor. And I loved Pagosa Springs. Every time I was off, I was down there. A stream that ran through there filled with beautiful trout. And I spent many an hour catching trout on my time off. And we had a cast party at the end of our time there. We had this huge fish fry at the hotel. And then everybody that had fish in their little freezers, because all of our rooms had these kitchenettes. And so everybody that had fish, we pulled them out and we had this huge fish fry and this huge party. Without going into long details, we did cause the mayor to create some legislation for the city during our tenure there. Because we were there around 4th of July. And you can imagine a bunch of young boys having access to bottle rockets. And old hotels made out of wood shingle roofs, and a bunch of young boys with bottle rockets having fights with bottle rockets. So the mayor had came up with some legislation and said, hey, fireworks are illegal to be sold in the city of Pagosa Springs. So I remember many times going out to the outskirts of town, riding out with the guy that we were buying the fireworks from. We'd go outside of the city limits, get the fireworks, and come back. So we still broke the law. And it's a long time ago, so the statute of limitations is well expired. I can't
Well, and I think they were all grateful that you guys were underage for drinking too, because otherwise it might have been just way out of hand.
There were times that didn't matter. I can seriously say I'd never been drunk until that movie.
Nicolas Beauvy, you have been in so many different films. Can you tell me which is one of your favorite?
Well, I've been very blessed as a child actor. I have to say, I was, as you said, I was in a bunch of movies. I played young King Arthur in Camelot, so that was a real great experience. Richard Harris was an amazing human being and really was very kind. After I did the Cowboys, I did a movie with George C. Scott called Rage, which was actually filmed in Benson, Arizona. We stayed in Tucson, we filmed in Benson, it was right in that area. And interesting how I got that role. The lady, Colleen Dewhurst, who played the madam in the movie, the ladies, she was the ex-wife of George C. Scott, but still on good terms, and she recommended me to George C. Scott because she she met me on the set of the Cowboys and thought I was, good for the role and everything, so.
Do you have daughters?
No. But I would say favorite one is the Cowboys, just because of the camaraderie that we had. And going back to what you were asking Al about the movie, we gotta give a big thank you for everything to Mark Rydell, the director.
Yes.
Because he was the glue,
Yes.
and he was the one who just handled everybody and made it happen. Mark Rydell was a magical producer-director of this movie.
And the different emotions that he captured from each one of you boys was amazing, because we as an audience, I think, felt what you guys were feeling on that film. And for some of them, that was their first film that they had been on.
As I said earlier in the discussion, the actors, I had never been on a horse before the Cowboys. So we really practiced our butt off. We had to go to the stables every day after school and on the weekend for about 6 to 8 hours for like a month before we went to Santa Fe, New Mexico for the location. And then on the set, I worked my butt off to try to be looking good on the horse. And the Cowboys, like Al and Clay O'Brien and Mike Pyatt, they never acted in their life, and they were like incredible actors in this movie. I mean, when I watch this movie, Al was amazing in the movie as Fats. I mean, I see some of his scenes, and I'm like, geez, man, that guy really nailed it. And Mike Pyatt was amazing as Homer. All the Cowboys became great actors, and all the actors became pretty good Cowboys.
Well, and the doors that had opened for each one of you that were on set of this film had to have been tremendous. From the time you finished filming and you thought that it was over to the next phone call, can you share with us one of those phone calls after the film that just really changed your life?
I was fortunate enough to have the Kellerman agency, the same agent that the Brady Bunch had, Tony Kellerman. And I did get some calls. I didn't have the total familial support that a 14, 15-year-old needs to get to LA as much as you'd like to get to, and as much as you're required to satisfy an agent. But, I mean, that's a difficult part of the business in and of itself. But I did do an episode of Bonanza with Ron Howard. And subsequent to that, I've been able to do some other stuff. I did a movie with Val Kilmer called The Salton Sea, about the drug trade. And I was a technical advisor and an actor in that. And then subsequent to that, I was able to get my wife and I into a music video with Toby Keith called I Love This Bar. I stunt fought DC Curry, a big comedian, in a movie that went straight to video called Tears of a Clown. It was a kind of an indie pick and a kind of an inexperienced director that was up and coming. So it went straight to video, but I ended up with a copy and it's pretty cool. So, and we've done some other background stuff where, you just show up and hang out and, you might be seen or you might not.
Now, how many you boys worked together for a little over 4 months? There had to have been a real fight.
There probably was. I don't recall exactly, but I'm sure we got under each other's skin every once in a while, like kids can do. And I'm sure when we roped and we gambled when we roped, money was being exchanged. But I don't know if it was a fight, but we roughed it up a few times.
Not a physical altercation. No physical altercations. I mean, there were some words,
Yeah.
Pretty girls walking by, and I think she's gonna be mine tonight. And then we'd argue about it. Like you said, our little gambling debt. I think the last time I saw Allie brought up that we went up and learned how to play Irish poker up in the hotel room with Tony Eppers, Gary Eppers, and the guys that were professional stuntmen at the time. But we didn't argue about that. I don't think there was anything you'd really call an argument. I'd comment on what you said a while ago about the guys learning to be actors, the Cowboys learning to be actors, and actors learning to be Cowboys. What amazed me a bunch, especially watching this movie. It's been a few months quite a few months since I've seen the movie. But what amazed me is the actual natural acting ability of these guys. I mean, you were talking about Mark Rydell, but just watching Al, his own personality comes out in that. I mean, he was told what he was expected to do, as were all of us, but what really came out was you guys' natural ability. I mean, they all had their own personalities that interact in the movie, and it was just amazing how it came out, really was.
So before we get to the Q&As, which we're getting ready to start now, you guys were telling us about the cattle drive and kind of what fell into place with that.
Well, Clay O'Brien and I were in charge of the horses, because we had like about, how many horses, like 60, 70?
Quite a few.
Something like that,
Yeah.
Horses, and so me and him were basically on that. Of course, we split a little time with the cattle, but you want to elaborate on that a little bit? I mean, it was a herd of cattle, and it was a...
We had about, I want to say about 1,000 head of cattle in reality. I think we were supposed to have had 1,500, but I think they recruited about 1,000 head, and now if you are looking at those cattle, it takes me back to a long time ago, and we used to import Mexican Coriani cattle.
Team rope and steers.
Team rope and steers, thank you. Well, all of our team rope and steers from everywhere were Mexican Coriani cattle. You can't even do that anymore. We had this herd of, well, most of them were well overgrown for rope and steers, and I don't know where they got them from, but they had them out there for the herd, and we herded them. I know that, I think Gene O'Brien, Clay's stepdad, told you guys about the lead horse and
Yes.
managing the lead horse and keeping him intact so the rest of the herd didn't break up.
And once in a while, the lead horse did break free, and boy, we had to gallop like crazy to catch that horse, because the rest of the horses would follow the lead horse.
So you guys actually did herd those cattle.
Well, we had rustlers. We had
But it wasn't like you guys were just set in a perfect location and then they filmed for a little bit.
No.
I mean, you guys actually had the experience of the dust and the sweat and
Oh,
the
absolutely.
smell.
Oh, absolutely.
And the whole ambiance of a true cattle drive.
So when we got to Santa Fe, we booked school time, because as minors, we had to do 3 hours a day of school. So Mark Rydell got us out there a week early so that we could do like 9 hours a day for like 10 days straight. So that way, many days, we wouldn't have to go to school because we had credit. We had banked our school. And what he wanted us to do was go out there with the rustlers and herd the cattle. He wanted us to be cowboys, and that's why we look authentic out there, because we were herding the cattle, we were herding the wild horses.
Well, and I know that we are gonna have so many questions. Jim, do you wanna run the mic to the different people? If you guys wanna kind of stand up, Jim will bring you a mic, so that way we can hear what your questions are.
I wanna say one thing real quick if I can before we get too far, or before we forget it. I just wanna give the hugest shout out to Rod and Brenda for inviting us and putting this together for us, allowing us to be part of it. Because I've been sitting around these movies and stuff and talking to a lot of the people, and this is an incredible group of people, some incredible work that's been done that has been screened here. And I'm super pleased, super honored to be part of that still this many years down the road. And I want to thank Rock and Brenda.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us to Tucson. We're honored to be here and honored to celebrate the movie.
I want to thank the people that are still sticking around too, so thank you all.
Well, I think we are all honored that you guys are here sharing such an amazing, the stories of this amazing film. Jim, could you get your mic, and then we'll just kind of go back and forth.
Sure.
Yes, I do.
So I know we're gonna have I have a whole list of amazing questions for these gentlemen, but I know that you guys want to ask questions too. Go ahead.
My name is Christopher Beeman, and I want you to know that film came out in 72. I was born in 74. And when I saw it in 76 or 78 with my grandfather, it was one of the most relatable films. being from Kansas and growing up on a farm, that was part of the first 10 years, it was something I'd never seen before. Please tell me about the scene with you and Bruce Dern down by the river. I was scared for you.
I was scared for me. So, I don't know why I've been holding these for so long, but this is actually one of the original glasses, so I'm gonna put it on. Believe it or not.
There we go.
Okay, now I'm in character. So Bruce Dern is well, I'm gonna say something now you guys may not be happy with, because we all don't like Bruce Dern because he killed John Wayne. But he's a hell of a guy, and a really super nice man, and a just tremendous person. We rehearse it, but Bruce Dern is the type of actor who just raises it a notch or two when it's actually, when the director says action. So he's we do the scene, he says, we rehearse it pretty much the way we're gonna do it, and the knife goes like this. Then we're actually gonna do it, he says action. Well, the knife now goes a little sharper into my neck. The knife goes a little deeper here when he finishes. So he really starts, amping it up. So it got me a little more scared. Yeah, I'm a good actor, but I'm not, I was scared. And the scene in the water, I knew I was going to be taken into the water and done, because I had a wetsuit underneath my clothing, and it was a pretty thick wetsuit. And it was skin colored. It wasn't like a black one like you normally have. And it went up pretty high up here, the wetsuit. So when he started dunking me, which was in and of itself was scary, the wetsuit was choking me. When I put my neck down like this, I was starting to choke. Yeah, I was struggling, but I was also struggling because he was intense and he was not holding back. I mean, he was throwing me around like a rag doll.
He definitely brought it out, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely. He made me a better actor for sure. And it's interesting in that scene, if you notice, my glasses fall off my head, my face, and I luckily catch it. So, it would have been a mistake.
I think that
if I would have lost those glasses, we would have had to do that whole scene again. But I didn't lose the glasses. I held on to them, and therefore the scene worked. That's all.
Like Nick was saying about the stunt, about Bruce Dern's bringing it up one or two notches. I was a stunt double and stand-in, a kind of a combination of all that. You would not believe how he roughed me up. I mean, we were just adjusting lights. Okay, he's gonna come around here like this, and then we're gonna jerk him off the horse like this, and it was like, holy crap! I could have easily, what he did, his acting was just natural, because it scared the crap out of me.
Well, and after Bruce shot John Wayne, even after the film, I guess for many years afterwards, he got death threats, he was hated, and to find out that he was actually so loved on set because of the person he was. And one of you had said that John Wayne asked him, are you ready to be one of the most hated men in the country, right?
Yeah.
John Wayne had said to him, he said, after this scene, I don't remember the exact phraseology, but after this scene, you're going to be one of the most hated men in Hollywood. And Bruce Dern's response was, I remember clearly him saying, yeah, but they're going to love me in Berkeley.
And did you guys think, as boys, after you were done filming this, did you become men as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I never really thought about it, but yeah, I think we matured definitely in this movie, and I think it was definitely a transition for me for being 13 years old and becoming a young man.
I mean, I had a dad that, and I joke about it because I love my dad, but my dad was the kind of guy that you fall off a horse and you better get up and you better get back on that horse. And I remember my dad many times saying, what are you limping for? You ain't hurt. Get up and get on that horse. And so there was kind of a mentality behind that you know, you ain't hurt, get up, get tough, be tough, suck it up. I don't know if it maybe the movie helped me understand that better, but now that we're talking about it, yeah, I can see the correlation.
Can you tell us what your auditions were like?
Well, for me, I had a normal general casting call, and about 7 or 8 calls later, that's when it got intense, and that's when we were on the horse in the stables. First you meet the assistant casting director, then the second interview you meet the casting director, then the next interview you meet the director. Then you're reading a scene with another person. So it was about 7 to 8 interviews, and the last big one was at the stables when they wanted to see us riding a horse and how we look on a horse. So it was a long process, and I remember praying. I remember praying at night sometimes, saying, God, I want to get this role, I want to get this role, I want to get this part. And we really didn't know what role we were going out for. When we auditioned, it wasn't like, okay, you're auditioning for Four Eyes, for Dan Four Eyes. No, we were just there. And then towards the very, very end, that's when Rydell said, you're going to play Fats, and you're going to play Four Eyes, Dan. And he's the one who picked the role for us. It's not like we auditioned for that role.
Were you all in there together then, all the kids at once, or was it one-on-one?
No, we were separate because, first I think it was over 500 kids or 1,000 kids who tried out for this in Hollywood and outside Hollywood because they were looking beyond just Hollywood. That's why they found the true Cowboys. So we didn't really I didn't really meet you until we were
there
at the stables or something.
How was your audition process out?
I can tell you, and I've been asked this and answered this a bunch of times, and for me it was kind of weird. So people say, well, how'd you get the part? Well, Mike Pye played Homer. His dad and my dad were friends. Go way back. And I guess they had solicited or searched for some cowboy type kids at some junior rodeos. And my dad and a couple of other parents of kids that were in Norman, and Norman's cousin doubled him, and Sean Hal, Norman's brother, doubled Clay O'Brien Cooper. And so we were all like family. And our parents started the California Junior Rodeo Association back in 1968. So evidently I wasn't at a rodeo, or they went to some rodeo or something, and we're looking for a hefty kid that could ride and rope. And so Les gave them my dad's number. They called my dad, and I was riding a colt out in the pasture one day, and my dad went to the house to take a phone call, and he comes back out and he goes, hey, how'd you like to be in a movie with John Wayne? Like, yeah, well, whatever. Come on, Dad. No, I'm serious. You gotta call for an audition. Okay, let's do it. And I only remember going to the studio one time, and I believe Buzz Henry, rest his soul, and Mark Rydell, and I don't remember who else, but they were there, and they give you some lines to read, tell you, okay, memorize these lines, and we'll call you in 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. I remember going in, I read the lines, they said, okay, thanks, we'll call you back in a couple weeks or whatever. It was the next day or two that we got a call that said, you need to meet with Anthea Silver, which was the costume designer, down at Warner Brothers building whatever that she was in. So next thing I know, we're loaded up, I'm getting measured, and there's a drawing of my character, and it went on from there.
That's too easy.
I mean, it really, my recollection of it was really easy. It was like, oh, okay, yeah.
I had to sweat.
Cool. I'm just at the junior rodeos. That's how they found you, was at the junior rodeos as well, wasn't it?
My part was easier. My part came on easier than what Al did, way easier than Nick's. I was just rodeoing. We had our state finals, California State Junior Rodeo Association finals in Indio. And here comes Buzz Henry out there, and the second team director, and there was somebody else looking for guys, because that's where Norm Howell got his part. And they picked several guys, and they picked my uncle, who was about a year and a half younger than me. And he told him, you need to come up to Booth Stables, and we want you to ride around with the actor. but you might be a little bit too short. Well, I'm not a tall man right now, you can tell, but anyways, he was, at the time he was a little shorter than me, and so I was taller than him, and they said he might be a little too short, so I went and I'm looking all tall and proud and everything, standing on the side of the arena. I don't think you were there at that time, Nick, whenever they paired us up. I think they did it from a photograph. Buzz Henry and James Colburn were there from what my recollection were, and they were talking back and forth. They went ahead and picked my uncle to ride for Sean Kelly, Stuttering Bob. And he was also, his name was Clay, but it was Clay Hunt. And then they come over and looked at me and they said, "Can you ride?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I'm here. In case he's too short, then I'll do the part. Come out here and ride." I rode around a couple of times and went, "You're on." That was how it happened with me. Literally in about an hour's worth of time, you're in the movie The Cowboys.
Okay, I think we have another question.
Okay, this is kind of a quick one. You guys did some hard writing in that movie. Can you spell right like that?
I can.
I would need a little practice, probably. Once you ride a horse, I think you can always ride a horse, to be honest with you. But I think I would be bouncing in the saddle for a little while until I get the hang of it.
Where did you guys shoot the interior of the school?
We shot, when you see the exterior and the interior, it was all the same place. I just don't remember that place.
Well, that was about Skin Joe's, just west of Colorado Springs.
Well, I don't know the location, but we did the interiors of the school on location.
Oh, okay.
Because they built the school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they built the John Wayne's house.
Right?
They built John Wayne's house in Santa Fe.
The Santa Fe part of that was the San Cristobal Ranch. It's out there. I hear it's kind of run down now, but I guess quite a few movies or backgrounds for movies were done there at some point in history. And I can't remember. It's driving me crazy to try to remember at the end when we were driving the cattle through town to sell them and buy the headstone.
That was my next question.
I cannot remember where that set was.
Yeah, me neither.
It was. I totally remember the scene, doing it, but we didn't go to a ton of other states. So that set, and we did everything in sequence, so that set had to be in Colorado.
Pretty much in sequence.
Was there any pickup scenes that you guys had to do afterwards?
There were some. There were some voiceover things. I remember being in the sound studio and cleaning up some vocabulary stuff and matching up some voice work and learning how to read my lips and say the lines so they could cut it in and edit the film and stuff like that. But I don't think there was a whole lot of stuff. There was a lot of stuff that we did that got edited out of the film. Norm Howell and I did this huge roping scene where we got to spend. It was pretty fun because we got to spend a good part of the day team roping out in the middle of the desert with no arena. They set up some panels for boxes to hold the cattle and boxes to and a rope and chute to run out of, and re-roped and roped and roped, and they filmed that. And then they had another. My title is Singing Fats. There's a song in that movie that I was supposed to have sung, and I remember it word for word. It's never left my head, but they couldn't find music that they were afraid wasn't copyrighted. They tried to kind of score it with some kind of musical sound behind it, and it wasn't because I couldn't sing, although I probably can, but it was just because they couldn't find a score that they were comfortable with using without some copyright violation.
Okay, sing just a couple of lines.
I'll speak the lines. The lines were, "Good evening, cows, you're looking fine. Glad to meet you, the pleasure's mine. There ain't no spooks and there ain't no witches, so settle down, you sons of bitches."
I'll tell you what, the first scene with the snubbing post and the round pen and the bronc is an amazing bit of work. Who was doubling for John Wayne in the snubbing post scene? And those bronc scenes are great. You can't even see the flank strap or anything. Amazing.
Yeah, we had Buzz Henry. No.
Chuck Roberson.
No, but I mean, Buzz Henry was the second unit director, right?
Yes.
Wasn't he kind of in charge of stunts?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Chuck Roberson was the name of John Wayne's double, and a lot of all the kids who rode the bucking horse in that scene, their stunt double did the actual work.
They brought in a bunch of jockeys to be small, And they actually, within that wooden corral structure, they put bucking chutes. And so they did a ton of video shoots of bucking scenes. And if you'll watch real closely, you'll see guys that are spurring back to the flank cinch and trying to spur out to the shoulder, and they were telling them, don't spur like that. You know, but to stay aboard the saddle bronc, you've got to spur and get in time with that horse. So they were having to do that, so it was kind of a difficult thing. The close-ups for us, we were really falling off horses in the dirt, but the hardcore bucking stuff was mostly done by jockeys.
There was, do you guys remember Casey Tibbs? I don't know if a lot of you guys know Casey Tibbs back to the old days, rodeo and stuff. I used to be near neighbors with Casey, but Casey was up there, stayed with us at the Holiday Inn and everything. If you notice in one of the scenes that on the bucking scene where you see A. Martinez on that bucking horse, whenever he tames the horse, it shows him in a couple of scenes that he's riding with both hands, and then it shows a scene where he's holding it, because he talked to the professionals. They had to tell him to quit doing that, like he was saying, spurred back, because he had talked to the professionals. Oh yeah, if you're gonna ride a saddle bronc, you got to get one of your free hand in the air. And so there's kind of little splits in there where you can kind of see the difference in it, where they cut it in. But Casey Tibbs was one of the big riders too, and a couple of jockeys like.
My fondest memory of Casey Tibbs was he was kind of my side rider, for lack of a better term. And when we were doing the bucking scene where I fell off, we were jumping over jumps that were spaced way too close to stay on for the second jump. So you were gonna fall off. But Casey was supposed to be kind of my safety man. And Casey looked at me at one point, he says, I'm supposed to be your safety man, but don't think for a minute I'm gonna catch your little fat ass.
I think we have another question.
Was there any close calls or people who got hurt? And
I never wore wetsuit in the river scene. No. But I had one scene where I got hurt. Is Clay O'Brien and I were herding the cattle. It was not on camera, nothing. We were just out there doing our thing. And Clay would always put his both feet back on the horse, so his feet would sit on the rump, the ass of the horse. And so I thought, let me try that. So I bring my feet back. Well, my spurs hit the horse's flank, and that horse just took off. Well, of course, I had already tied my reins to my horn, and I was just not even thinking of anything, and the horse just took off, and here I am bouncing on the saddle. The horse is galloping, and I did fall off. Got ego bruised, but got roughed up a little bit. And I'll never forget, because a station wagon, momentarily after, a station wagon came flying over to me, and it was Mark Rydell coming out, panicking that I could have, broken a leg or broken something and screwed up the whole filming.
And you got in trouble for it, didn't you?
No, I didn't get in trouble for it, but everybody was very happy that I didn't,
Yeah, did they inform you that's why you have stunt doubles? You're not supposed to be out there doing monkey business. Next.
This is for Al. So you weren't an actor before you did this movie, and you did a lot of writing. I just wondered, you found yourself as a teenager thrust into this spotlight with the greatest actors of all times, and how did that change your life? Were you able to go back to being a kid again, like you had been? Did your friends treat you differently? Was school different? How did it change your life?
Well, I tell you, it did change my life to some extent, because everybody knew me for that movie. If you didn't know me for anything else, you knew me for that movie. And for a long time, close on after that, I had to come back and actually go to junior high school, or middle school as they call it nowadays, and all that. And people knew that I was an actor at that point, had evolved to doing that. And so it was more fun not to be at school sometimes, but I took it with a grain of salt. It is what it is. If you're gonna go out and do that kind of stuff, you're gonna be recognized. And so in my career in law enforcement, everybody that I worked with, everybody knew that fact about me. They knew me for that more than they may have known me for me. So, I've fielded questions for 50 years since we did the movie about different things, and one of the most popular questions is, well, what was John Wayne like to work with? And I've already gone over that, so I won't reiterate it here. But just stuff like that, just over and over and over and over. So you just get used to it. It was, a great time. It was an experience that not everybody's had. There's only 11 of us that had, and our stunt guys that had it. So I can say, booyah, I got to work with John Wayne. That's a tremendous honor, and it's nothing that I would ever not be proud of.
Okay, so the both of you share with us one of your favorite lines. Just spit it out right now.
So me and my cousin L.D. Grimes went down to Benbow, and there was this gal on the stage doing hair dance. Next thing you know, she dropped her dress and she was naked. All over, from head to toe.
We can do the whole movie right now if you want. My favorite line was, I just turned 13. That's when Bruce Dern asked me just before he kills John Wayne. And the line in the script was, I'm 12 years old. And I asked Mark Rydell, because my birthday was July, and we filmed the scene like a few days after my birthday, and I asked Mark Rydell, I said, hey, can I say I just turned 13? He said, sure, change the line. So, I just turned 13.
Now, as you guys made a special effort to be here in Tucson, Arizona for the 7th annual Wild Bunch Film Festival, you have seen several of the movies that have been shown here. You have met some of the most amazing, talented individuals that absolutely live and love the Western lifestyle. What do film festivals like this mean to you guys?
I'm really glad, because I've been here since Friday, and I've seen some of the videos. As I didn't start watching them, I didn't realize how interesting some of them could actually be. So I think that this is a tremendous networking function for everybody that's involved in this process. It's a tremendous networking function. I'm hoping that I'm networking with people, and I'm hoping that people will recognize me, because I love nothing more than being a part of this and being a part of the Western genre, and that's my life. That is who I am. There's a huge amount of talent. There's some incredible stuff that I've watched, and talking to some of the authors and the screenwriters and stuff, I think there's some really cool projects. Your project was totally amazing. The one that you guys did earlier today, that was screened earlier today, I was blown away by it. And I'm like, my mind is running. It's like, where could this go? Where could you take this? So you shoot this much of something, you do this much of a project. Where could you start before the actual project, and where could you end after so can we put the project in the middle of what we're doing, and can we give it a beginning, and can we give it an end, and make it a full feature film? And my machine is running as I'm watching these things, thinking about, what would I want to do with this, what would I want to do with that?
Well, I think film festivals are so important, and I think there's so much talent in this world and in this festival, and it's very important to get people seen, people heard. It just takes lucky breaks. People just got to have chances, and so I think it's very important to support film festivals. And the Western genre is a very, I think it's not done as much as it should be. I think there should be more Westerns made. It's a very important part of our history, and film festivals are, everybody's passionate about what they do, and all the filmmakers. So follow the passion and keep doing what you love to do. And
well, they are a true testament to just that. Each and every one of you that have put yourselves out there this weekend at the film festival, I'm so proud of you, because you never know what door is going to be opened by being here, by networking, by showing your film, and by going after your goals and dreams. So I want you guys to keep doing that. And I just have to say, gentlemen, it is an absolute honor to be sitting here visiting with you. And this will be a moment that I will never forget.
Thank you so much.